I don't believe that you can find any good in evil. And if there is any Nigerian politician that is thoroughly evil, despicable, and not to be accommodated, it is El-Rufai. El-Rufai is not someone you want to find any deal with simply because you're looking for power. I have no accommodation for evil. I'm human, I sin, I do a lot of things that I'm not proud of, but I will not consciously walk in and embrace evil. And that is what I believe El-Rufai to be. So to answer your question, nothing is worthy of an embrace of El-Rufai. Nothing, absolutely nothing is worthy of that embrace. The second part of your question is, what if Nigerians fail to unite by 2027? What options are available to us? I think majority of Nigerian youth have not witnessed what good governance is, and so they are not ready to pay the price to get it. Look, 50 years in the life of a country is a day. It is very possible that by 2027, the Nigerian youth would fail to grab the network again. That would also be because we have failed to adequately communicate the urgency of the moment and the importance of finding the common grounds required to liberate ourselves. But none of that should elicit despair in us. I've picked today's topic deliberately, and when we come to that, we'll deal with it. It is very possible that we might still fail to unite in 2027. But remember that we did not lose in 2023 because we failed to find common purpose or to unite. We lost because the system won. The system won by subverting our will. INEC did the biddings of his masters. The judiciary also could not rise above his own putrefaction and corruption. So it wasn't that we lost because we failed. We didn't lose because we failed. We lost because the system won. Evil won. Well, I'll deal with that again when we come to the substance of this morning's lecture. Ifeanyi Agu says, firstly, how would you or we, your fans, be able to relay your preaching or content of your weekly lectures to the core, that is the grassroots, who are not literate enough to assimilate your lectures and sensitization? Secondly, do you think Obidient should form Obidient Party of Nigeria and have Obidati run on the platform in 2027? Does Obi stand a good chance in 2027? There are two questions there. I'll deal with the first one. When I speak with you, my assumption is that those I cannot reach can be reached by you. I can't speak with your driver. I might not be able to speak with your husband or your wives or your children or your mothers or your fathers or your co-workers, your colleagues, your friends, but you can speak with them. So for me, it's not about my person, it's about the ideas that I propagate. If those ideas resonate in your spirit, you have the duty to take those ideas to those you can reach. I may speak English and they might not. It might be that they speak Anago, they might speak Yoruba, they might speak Hausa, Fufude, Igbo language, Ijaw, Kalabari, Efik, whatever language you speak. When you hear me, translate the ideas you have received. Translate it to those who cannot hear what I have to say or who might hear me and not understand. To now speak to the second leg of your question, this is not about the person of Peter Gregory Obi. This is about ideas. The person who will support in 2027 might very well not be Peter Obi, because a Peter Obi that is romancing an El-Rufai cannot find my support. Let's be clear about that. There are certain lines that you draw. It is about ideas. So when we come to that bridge in 2027, if we get to that bridge, don't look at the persons. Look to the ideas that they espouse. Are they promising a new Nigeria, a different way of doing things? Are they promising you citizenship? Are they dealing with the substance of your pains? Do they bear promise that suggests that we might have a turnaround in our country? That is what 2027 is about. It's not, I agree that our current political parties are next to useless. They are almost one and the same, almost without exception, if the truth be told. So I'm not really speaking to anything beyond ideas. And those ideas, if they coalesce and find resonance in your spirit, what happens thereafter is that ideas will bind all of us together. Those ideas are what bound the Obidient movement. The Obidient movement was in existence long before there was a Peter Obi presidential bid. The Obidient movement was what you call the Obidient movement today encompasses a whole lot of people who are in the NSAS movement, a whole lot of people who are in, say, like, enough is enough, a whole lot of people everybody who desired change in Nigeria became part and parcel of the Obidient movement. And that had nothing to do with the person of Peter Obi. It was the promise of change that he embodies. That was what we all coalesced around. It's not about a party. That's why someone like me was very careful to explain from the beginning that I am not a member of the Labour Party. I spoke for Peter Obi. I supported Peter Obi. I still support him today because of the ideals that he represents. He's not an angel. None of us are. I'm no angel. So if I'm not an angel, how can I possibly be looking for an angel? It is about ideas. Those ideas and the ideals are the things for which we speak, and those are the things that drew us to Peter Gregory Obi. So if in 2027 he remains consistent and he has not changed from the person we have known him to be since he came into the public consciousness, of course, by all means, we will lift our support for him to another level, and a whole lot of people have to be singing in concert from the same hymn book if we are going to make a dent in the system come 2027. The last question came from a gentleman named Omoniyi or Motola. Maybe that's a guy or a woman, I'm not sure now. It's a unisex name. Both names are actually unisex. But the question is, can we ramp up a very strong movement against the 2027 elections for a full restructuring of our entire system of governance? Also, can you speak to the Orange Union as proposed by Dele Ogun and how it can materialize? Let me deal with the first part, and I've touched on it in answering Ifeanyi's question. Movements are about common ideas. To restructure Nigeria is a highly desirable idea, and it's always been the lodestone of my own arguments in the Nigerian political space. But I have noticed that we've come to a point where we would have to make those ideas political, which means that somebody must stand behind those ideas and make those ideas the central plank of political engagement. In a situation where, one, the NLC is lost, organized labor is completely compromised as at today, the civil society organizations, they've been lost long before the emergence of Jaguda. But certainly since around 2011 and their misadventure at Ojota, when they found common purpose with the AC, that's the Action Congress of Tinubu, who was more or less the sole bankroller of the civil rights movement in Nigeria when he was still forming opposition to the PDP. Since that time, what you find is that there has been a fragmentation of Nigerian opposition movement, and it's been almost impossible to find common purpose. So I'm not too sure if it is possible to galvanize sufficient support for a boycott of the 2027 elections whilst we are demanding for a restructuring of Nigeria. But be sure of one thing, I support the idea, but at the end of the day, I'm a realist. I guess age and time forces a lot of realism on us. My next birthday, I'm going to be 56. I'm not too sure if it is possible to actually get common ground, sufficient common ground to be able to galvanize that movement. But I think it is very possible to galvanize the people behind a political movement that demands the restructuring of Nigeria, and then place that front and center as part of the basis of engagement with the electorate going towards 2027. The final nail in the coffin of that hope was the inability of what I had once believed to be the most conscious layer of the Nigerian revolutionary movement to find common purpose with the expression of the public will. In a place like Nigeria, where rigging has become the order of the day, it was very possible for INEC, in spite of everything, to still credit the winner of the election with over 6 million votes without showing the workings. But those who should know better were probably the first to start rejoicing that the person they consider their enemy lost the election, instead of looking to the person who won, quote and unquote, the election. We all lost eventually, simply because they couldn't see the larger picture. The hopeless usurper and his destructive predecessor notwithstanding, what do we have today? A man gains power fraudulently. That was bad enough in the sense that he extinguished hope. He made people lose hope in the system. A lot of people left Nigeria after the 2023 election. I know a few, because they couldn't find any peaceful way out of the cul-de-sac into which we've been locked. They realized that it didn't matter any longer what the will of the people might be, and they left. They voted with their feet. Largely members of the Nigerian middle class. They sold their substance in Nigeria, relocated to everywhere. Australia, New Zealand, Canada. They left. They left because the situation had become so hopeless. The person who gained power through the destruction of our hope has done nothing to restore hope or to even give the illusion of hope. If anything, he has reinforced just how hopeless the situation has become. The first word that came out of his mouth at his inauguration, subsidy is gone. We know today that the subsidy that he says is gone is still being paid under the table without any hint of probity. We also know that our judiciary is not only useless, but it is accompanied by a most useless legislator who does not even understand his oversight functions or his job as the purse keeper of the Commonwealth. It is more interested in having prayers sent to his inboxes. So Jaguda came into power, and what has happened? Brazen, unbridled stealing. Beta Edu. Fisayo Shoyombo has done a fantastic job of exposing the rot in our custom. Not a whimper, not a single word has come out of the Nigerian police, except for the police to start chasing after Fisayo himself. And then the EFCC found nothing better to do with his time than to be chasing a cross-dresser around, and then he took that cross-dresser to court for mutilating the naira because he sprayed naira, or Shim sprayed naira. And what happened? The victims are busy rejoicing that the person whose sexual proclivities might be different from their own has been caged for spending or abusing naira. The people who are stealing the naira are not abusing the naira, but it is the idiot who sprayed the naira. The same thing that almost everybody who has attended an Owambe party in Nigeria has done. That is the reason for sending Shim to prison. And the victims are busy rejoicing because of the victimization of another victim. That is the extent of hopelessness that has come into our space. In the same country where the National Security Advisor is still ensconced in his office, in spite of the fact that somebody who was in detention in his facility not only left detention, got into a private jet, and actually flew out of the country. in this country, and we are busy, very busy, applauding the imprisonment of Bobrisky. That is the extent of the hopelessness of our situation. Somebody who calls himself the Minister of Works actually found the grace to stand in the public space to be justifying how they can be spending 3 billion for every kilometer of road. Are they paving it with gold? There is an intercontinental, is it a continental highway being constructed from Cairo to Cape Town that is only marginally more expensive than the road we are building to Calabar. The same country that has no money to fund education, has no money to fund healthcare, is spending 3 billion per kilometer. A whole lot of people are going to end up having their livelihood destroyed because of the greed and avarice of the commander-in-chief. One man, Peter Gregory Obi, he spent his money and is drilling boreholes at his own expense, with his own money. But the only thing that has exercised those who should be worried about the direction of our country is the quality of what he has built. Meanwhile, your legislators voted 198 million for each borehole that they are planning to drill. Water works no longer exist in Nigeria. The government is fixing money for boreholes, and it is 193 or is it 198 million for one borehole. And we cannot even see the ludicrousness of focusing on the person, whether you like what he is doing or not. Why not focus on those who have the money, who have voted money, humongous sums to build boreholes that me and you know they are not even going to build? But you have time to be focusing on the private individual, whether he's doing it for political reasons or not, he's immaterial. He is doing it. That should be sufficient basis for you to begin to question why the public pulse is not sufficient to do something about the paucity and shortage of water across the length and breadth of our country. I live in Lagos. There is not even 1 square inch of public water works in the entire Lekki metropolis. This does not bother you. It does not engage your attention. It is not deserving of criticism. But the man who is spending his own money to build a borehole is the reason why you are doing up and down the place. How hopeless can a situation get? There is no way one looks to all these and then retain hope in this place, because it just does not appear as if people who should care even truly care about the situation they are confronted with. Propaganda has replaced governance. There is no purpose to governance beyond stealing. Corruption has become brazen amidst the worsening economic conditions of the country. And yet, one is supposed to retain hope in this hopeless place. Terrorism has become normal. The Minister of Defense was said to be the one taking food to terrorists. And this is not engaging the attention of those who should be in the forefront of holding government to account. It is Peter Obi's borehole that is engaging their attention. Impunity has been licensed to the point where people are brazenly in daylight mining mineral resources up and down the length of Nigeria. And what happened in Okwama? It's very simple. The government licensed impunity to the point where Tom Polo and his people are in open rebellion against the sovereignty of the state, or licensing the state to fight its private wars. And then Okwama happened. And in a democracy, pressmen are excluded from the panel of inquiry. They cannot even report on it. And this is a democracy. What has happened to conventional resistance? What has become of the voices that used to speak truth to power in our space? The opposition movement has become so completely divided that it cannot even find common ground in spite of the fact that we are facing common threats. Bigotry has become so ingrained that victims cannot even recognize the commonalities of the afflictions of the persons that they are deriding. That a person is Yoruba is enough reason for you to hate him. That a person is Igbo is enough reason for you to hate him. That somebody is even saying something different from what you want to hear is enough reason for you to label the person in order to remove his humanity. My father was an Ijesha man from Imesile. So was his mother and his father, both from the same Imesile in Osun State. My mother is from Fidelity in Oyo State. So was her father and her mother, Olukole, from Ile Olukole in Fidelity. I went to Fidelity Grammar School, and yet some morons will turn around in order to delegitimize what I am saying. Say, oh, his mother is Igbo. So what if my mother is Igbo? But she's not. But it is convenient for you to delegitimize my voice by labeling me. That is the extent of the dumbness that has assailed us and is afflicting us today in Nigeria. It is enough to label a man in order to silence his voice. What has become of us? How easy it is to despair when one looks at the madness that has overtaken our land. Bigotry has rendered us impossible, or has rendered us incapable of seeing what we should see. All you need to do to silence a man is to give him a label. The content of his character does not matter any longer. What happened to common purpose? But in the midst of all of these, remember what I said. Retaining hope in a hopeless place. We must retain hope, because without hope, everything is lost. We might as well be dead if we can no longer hold on to hope. Yorubas have a proverb, and I'll share it with you. It says, "Ẹni tí eégún lé kó kú ìrọ́jú, torí bó ṣe ń rẹ ará ayé, bẹ́ẹ̀ náà ló ń rẹ èrò ọ̀run." Those pursued by the ancestral mask, the masquerade, should keep hope. Because as the human being running from the mask tires, so does the man who is ensconced in the ancestral mask. One thing I need us all to understand is this. There is one thing over which none of us have any control, and that is the passage of time. When I see Obasanjo